It wasn't the sound that got me first. It was the silence. My house, an old Cape Cod at the end of a dirt road, was never silent. There was the groan of the joists settling, the chatter of squirrels in the attic, the far-off hum of the highway on windy nights. But that night, after the power went out, the silence was absolute. Thick. Like I'd been submerged in oil. I lit a candle, the flame jittering in my shaking hand. I told myself it was just a storm, a downed line. I'd call the utility company in the morning. I went to the living room window, peering into the pitch black. My reflection stared back, a pale, wide-eyed ghost against the dark. And then, movement. Not outside, inside the reflection. Behind my ghostly twin, at the far end of the dark room in the reflection, a shape shifted. A tall, impossibly thin silhouette, standing perfectly still beside my bookshelf. My blood turned to ice. I didn't turn around, I just stared into the reflection, my breath catching in my throat. The shape didn't move, it was just a man. Taller than any man I'd ever seen, his head brushing the ceiling. His outline was jagged, wrong. Slowly, so slowly my joints creaked, I began to turn from the window, my eyes glued to the spot in the real room where he stood. The spot was empty. Just the bookshelf, the armchair, the shadows dancing from my candle. I let out a shuddering breath, a trick of the light, stress. I was alone. Then, from the kitchen, a single, distinct click. The sound of my refrigerator door unlatching. I stood frozen. The candlelight seemed to shrink, the darkness pressing in. Hello? My voice was a dry rasp. No answer, just that heavy, listening silence. I inched toward the kitchen doorway, the candle held before me like a pathetic shield. The kitchen was a pool of black beyond the archway. I reached the threshold, raised the light. Nothing. The fridge door was shut, everything in its place. But on the linoleum floor, leading from the back door to the center of the kitchen, were wet footprints. They weren't muddy, they were clear, glistening water. And they were huge. A man's footprints, but elongated, the toes too long, the stride impossible. Each print was a good 5 feet apart. They stopped in the middle of the floor, as if he'd simply vanished. My heart was a trapped bird beating against my ribs. He's inside. He's inside right now. I backed out of the kitchen, my eyes scanning the living room shadows. The candle flickered violently, and in that strobing light, I saw him again. Not a full shape, just a slice of him. He was standing in the narrow space between my sofa and the wall, a place too narrow for a child to fit, yet he was there, pressed flat, his long, dark form blending with the shadow. I saw the glint of something pale, an eye, or maybe just a button, and then the darkness swallowed it. I ran. Not to the front door. It was past him, and my mind screamed that he could be anywhere, that he could be right behind the door. I fled upstairs, taking the steps 2 at a time, my socks slipping on the wood. I slammed my bedroom door shut, threw the lock, a flimsy hook and eye, and shoved my dresser against it. I blew out the candle. Darkness was safer now. Light only showed you the horror. I crouched on my bed, knees to my chest, listening. For a minute, there was nothing. Then, the first step on the staircase. Creak. It was slow, deliberate. Not the creak of an old house. This was the sound of weight being carefully, patiently applied. Creak. Another step. He was coming up. I fumbled for my phone on the nightstand. No service. Of course. The storm. But the flashlight. I could use it as a weapon, blind him. My thumb hovered over the button. But if I turned it on, he'd see me. He'd know exactly where I was. Creak. He was on the landing now. I could feel a change in the air, a cold draft seeping under the door. Then, a new sound. A soft, wet shuffling. It came from the hallway, right outside my door. It was the sound of someone adjusting their stance. Just standing there. I stopped breathing. The hook and eye latch on the other side of the door began to tremble. Gently. As if someone was breathing on it. Tink, tink, tink against the metal loop. Then, a whisper. It didn't come from under the door. It didn't come from the hall. It seemed to come from the very air in front of my face. a voice like dry leaves skittering on stone. I'm in the middle. I squeezed my eyes shut. Don't listen, don't hear it. Not outside, not inside. The whisper coiled into my ear. In the middle. The doorknob began to turn, slowly. The dresser groaned as pressure was applied to the door. This was it. He was coming in. My panic exploded into a final, desperate act. I didn't turn on my phone's light. Instead, I tapped the screen, bringing up the camera app. I didn't dare look at the door. I pointed the phone's lens at the foot of my bed, at the darkness there, and I pressed record. The door nut stopped turning. The pressure ceased. The shuffling sound moved away, back down the hall, back down the stairs. I stayed there, curled in the dark, until the first gray light of dawn bled through the curtains, until the birds began to sing. Only then did I push the dresser away, unlock the door, and creep out. The house was empty. The wet footprints in the kitchen had dried to faint, salty stains. Nothing was out of place. I almost convinced myself it was a waking nightmare, a stress-induced hallucination. Then I remembered the video. My hands trembled as I opened it. The screen showed a dark, grainy view of the foot of my bed. For 10 seconds, there's nothing. Just black. Then, a shape resolves. He is not at the door. He is not outside the window. He is kneeling directly at the foot of my bed, his chin resting on the mattress, his long, distorted face filling the lower half of the frame. His eyes are wide, unblinking pools of black. He is smiling, a crescent moon of broken gray teeth. He had been there the entire time, inches from my feet, watching me in the dark. And just before the video ends, his whisper, caught by the phone's tiny mic, slithers out once more. See? In the middle. I moved out that week. I left everything behind. But sometimes, in the dead of night, when the world goes perfectly silent, I check my phone. I don't know why. And on the screen, in the dark, I see my own face on the pillow, sleeping. And at the edge of the frame, just creeping into view, is the top of a long, dark head, beginning to rise.